Hi, I'm Dr. Michelle Campbell with Graduate Communications and Intercultural Programs. And in this video module, we will be reviewing Paraphrasing Basics. Let's get started. So you might be wondering, what is paraphrasing? Well, simply, paraphrasing is rewording or rewriting an original statement in your own words while keeping the same meaning and level of detail. Your paraphrase may be more concise and achieve greater clarity for whatever your purpose is for the document that you are currently writing. How do I paraphrase? Well, you can use different words, synonyms, word order, word form, and sentence structure, but you have to be careful. You cannot simply substitute synonyms. You do not need to paraphrase specialized vocabulary, technical terms, common engineering language, or information in the public domain. You can think of paraphrasing as a 1-to-1 or 1-to-2 ratio of your writing and the original. It's still pretty close to the same length and level of detail as the original, although it might change a little bit depending on your purpose and your own writing style. The most important thing that you should know is that when you're paraphrasing, you still need to cite your source, both within the text and in the references section of your document. It's very important that you are able to explain to your audience what information is your own and what information comes from another source. Paraphrasing can actually be quite difficult. Not only do you need to be able to understand a source very well, but you need to be able to have the vocabulary and flexibility with your own writing to be able to capture the same idea, but in your own words. So here are some paraphrasing techniques. To be able to capture the original meaning, you can put it in your own words by finding synonyms for some of the words, changing the verb to negative, changing the voice, changing the parts of speech. So for example, changing a noun to an adjective. You could combine sentences, move phrases, change word order, and change the sentence structure. So again, you're not just picking one or two of these, you're trying to employ as many of these techniques as possible when you're trying to paraphrase someone else's ideas. Paraphrasing is a very important skill to have. A good paraphrase demonstrates that you understand what you have read. Paraphrasing is tied very closely to being a good reader. Paraphrasing and summarizing enable you to put another's ideas in your own words to match your style and purpose for your readers. You don't want to have a situation where you're bringing in information from other sources and it makes your document seem choppy or interrupts the flow. So paraphrasing allows you to kind of reformat others' ideas into a style that fits your own writing style or your document style. Paraphrasing allows you to integrate multiple sources in the same sentence to compare and contrast ideas or viewpoints. If you were just using direct quotation, this would take a lot longer and take up a lot of space. Academic and technical writing styles in STEM fields can be intolerant of direct quotation. That means that direct quotation is not a normal part of writing in those fields. So this makes paraphrasing the next best technique to represent specific ideas in a 1-to-1 or a 1-to-2 ratio. Additionally, a good paraphrase will help you to avoid plagiarism. So making sure that you employ those techniques we just talked about will help to make sure that you're changing the words so that you're not plagiarizing another's ideas. Speaking of plagiarism, let's quickly review plagiarism, since paraphrasing is one of the ways we can use in our writing to avoid plagiarism. So plagiarism is when you intentionally present the ideas and words of someone else as your own. It's the unauthorized or unacknowledged use of another person's academic or scholarly work. It could be unintentionally copying the work of someone else without acknowledging the source. It could be using exact words or phrases of someone else's work, even if you cite. And this is where sometimes people get into trouble with paraphrasing. If they don't have a good paraphrase, they might be using exact words or phrases of someone else's work, and that's not okay. That's considered plagiarism. If you paraphrase someone else's work and you do not cite your source, that's considered plagiarism because, again, we don't know where those ideas came from. Copying and pasting from the internet is definitely plagiarism, and it's not cool. If you recycle previous assignments and papers, you're trying to get double credit for the same work, that's considered self-plagiarism. Unintended plagiarism is still plagiarism. So unfortunately, it's really your responsibility to understand what the standards are for plagiarism and academic honesty for your institution, your department, and your program. Often people wonder, what is common knowledge? So common knowledge is information that everybody knows to be factually true or correct, and often a source is not cited for that. Common knowledge varies depending on program, field, and level of education, and you should talk with other experts and professors in your department to understand what common knowledge means in your program. Unintended plagiarism can sometimes happen when what you think is your idea is not your own. So it's really important that you use extensive research to help you avoid unintended theft of ideas. And good notes on your researched articles will help you use your own voice and avoid unintended plagiarism. Let's get back to some examples of paraphrasing that are not very good. So these are examples of problems with paraphrasing. You can see over on one side, we have the original from the original article, and then we have the student summary. So again, these are problems with paraphrasing. You can see the original highlighted, sort through a vast number of possibilities within a fraction of a second. The student summary, sort through a very large data set in a fraction of seconds. It's basically the same, and that's not okay. Another example, no scalable commercial grade quantum computer has been built yet. No enterprise grade quantum computing system has been built so far. Again, there's just some replacement with synonyms. It's too close to the original, and this is considered plagiarism. A final example, which naturally exhibit quantum mechanical effects such as superposition, which exhibit quantum mechanical effects such as superposition. It's basically the same, and this is plagiarism. Here's another unacceptable example from the University of Wisconsin Writing Center. I won't read this to you, but you can pause this video and take a look and compare the underlined portions of the original with the underlined portions of the unacceptable example to get an idea of another example of what not to do. Here's an example of an acceptable paraphrase. The original passage from Oliver Sacks's An Anthropologist on Mars reads, "The cause of autism has also been a matter of dispute. Its incidence is about 1 in 1,000, and it occurs throughout the world. Its features are remarkably consistent, even in extremely different cultures." Here's the acceptable paraphrase. In An Anthropologist on Mars, Sacks, who's the author, and you can see there right away in this example, we've cited our source and our author. Sacks lists some of the known facts about autism. We know, for example, that the condition exists in roughly 1 out of every 1,000 children. We also know that the characteristics of autism do not vary from one culture to the next. So again, you can see how this is the same ideas, but in quite different words. This is an example of acceptable paraphrasing with in-text citation to say where the information came from. So let's review briefly. Paraphrasing means rewording or rewriting an original statement in your own words while keeping the same meaning and level of detail. There are several techniques you can use to paraphrase appropriately and avoid plagiarism. You still need to cite your source in the text and in the references section of your document for a paraphrase. I hope you learned a lot in this video about paraphrasing. I'll see you in the next video.